Hey y'all, it's Natalie, Knits with Horses. This is going to be video number 3 in my Knit With Me series of how to knit. My initial thought making these was, you know, there are stages in life, and right now my girls aren't really in a stage of having even the time, much less the inclination to sit and knit much. But that can change, and if I'm not around to teach them, these videos will be. And I thought I'll put it on the internet in case, I mean, if there's even one person that just, you know, my style connects with them and they are able to learn, then that's great. I feel good about that. So what I've got here is from the earlier videos. This is your basic cast on and a row of knit stitches. And now we're going to turn the work around, and the yarn is going to be at the front of your work. When you're knitting, when you start to knit a stitch, let's say we were going to knit right here, you'd have that yarn at the back of your work. But with the purl stitch, you hold the yarn in front of your work. Remember, this is the front, closest to you. Whatever's closest to you is the front. What's away from you is the back as you hold it. So now, we're knitting, we held it in the front and we went in from front to back, left to right, like that. Well, with purl, you're going to go into under that same strand, but you're going to go from right to left. Same strand, right to left. Let me do this, actually, English first. I think most people usually learn English. So you're going to go right to left under that same strand, and again with the same motion you're going to run around the back and bring it down between the two needles. But now instead of pulling it out, you're going to push it out and then slip that off. Now your yarn is still at the front of your work. You're going to go in right to left, run around there, slip it down in between your stitches, and between your needles, sorry. Push it out towards the back, slip that stitch off, and there you go. In like that, around there and into the in between, push it out and slide it off. One more, like so. Now we're going to switch over here and do it continental. The yarn is still at the front of your work. You're still going to go in. The yarn's going to be closer to you than the needles. So go in the same way. Kind of push that down. This is the way I do it. I've seen other continental. I've self-taught myself to knit this way in my early 40s because of debilitating injuries in my shoulders and pain in my hands. And I was told that this way might help, so I taught myself how. This may not be exactly like somebody else does it, but I just kind of push it down there to hold it between the two needles, and then I can push it out like that and slide it off. And that looked more awkward than it really ends up being. See, it can kind of flow like that. Now, I've seen people that don't really have to move this finger at all, and I'd love to figure that out, but this way works for me. So in there, right to left, make sure that that's snug down between your needles so you can easily push it out and slide it off. One more, well, actually 2 more. And there, trying to go into, there we go. Now, on the front we did knit stitch, and on the back we did purl stitch. see, this is why I don't really use the basic cast on much, because I don't know, I've got apparently one stitch went a little loose, and that just doesn't look as nice. But if you look at this part, if you want to see what it's supposed to look like, a little more. But that right there, where you've knit one row and purled one row, that is stockinette stitch. I don't know what I did right there. That just doesn't look right. Anyway, I'm guessing maybe that's just where I switched from right to left hand and just messed with my tension a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, this one is where we had the long tail cast on and then knit a row. So now we're going to turn that around, where the bumpy side or the back or the wrong side, whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't call it the back, because then you get confused about front of work and back of work. But turn it around to where the yarn you're working with is on the right. And oh, you do the right hand first. Here we go. Now remember that you start with the working yarn at the front of the work, which is over here closest to you. You go in the same way. If you watched the other part where we did the purl stitch on the basic cast on, it's the same exact thing. You go under that same strand, but you go right to left. Same motion, you go around the back and kind of tuck it down between the stitches, and then you push it out the back and slide that off. So in the same under the same strand, but right to left, go around the back, push it out, slide it off. In there, right to left, around the back, push it out, slide it off. And then we'll go over here to do it left-handed. And now the yarn's right there. You don't make the mistake of going like this with that yarn. You want the yarn between you and your work. So you're going to go in the same, under the same strand as if you were knitting, but you're going to go right to left. Wrap that around and tuck it down, push it out the back, slide the stitch off. Just like that. And that is the purl stitch. You've got this, which is stockinette stitch. This is worked on a long tail cast on, and as you can see, it looks much more like 2 full rows of stockinette stitch. And again, stockinette stitch is knit 1 row, turn around, and purl the other row. Okay, now, like I've been mentioning, there is a difference in the way your edge is going to look if you use the different cast-ons. See if I can get these both in the picture properly. The bottom one is basic cast-on, knit with the red, and then knit 1 row and purl 1 row with the white. And this is a long tail cast-on with red, knit 1 row, purl 1 row with the white. It's the exact same amount of knitting. But you see, you've got on the long tail cast on, you can see 2 full rows already. Where with this, you've got more like 1 row and an edging. It doesn't really look like 2 rows of stockinette stitch. So, and that may work for some things, it may not work for some things. But you know, and this kind of the edge looks a little different, you see? Where am I? Here we go. So it's not that one's better than the other, they're just different, and just so that you know what you're gonna get from each one. There it is. Again, this one is long tail, this one's basic. Enjoy your knitting, teach someone, share it with someone, make something for somebody who needs it. Sometimes they don't necessarily need the thing you're knitting so much as they just need someone to have knit them something. Y'all have a blessed day.